بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمد ونصلي على رسول الكريم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we ask him to send peace and blessings on his beloved and our beloved Sayyidina Muhammad sallallaho alayhi wa sallam. This is the last chapter of Tahara before we do Kitab al-Salat. So as Tahara, as explained in the beginning, that generally many of the Hadith books, they are according to the chapters of Fiqh. In Fiqh, the first chapter that generally comes is Tahara, because Tahara, purification, cleanliness, because that's a prerequisite for Salat. So it's a logical order. So this is the last section, and it's the most difficult. I would say many ulama have said this. I've heard from many ulama, the most difficult bab or section to get our head around, especially maybe for men. It's a section on Haydh. So there's ayat Quran, there's a hadith on, and there's the hadith we'll discuss today. Inshallah, we'll go through today. So the first section, it's something that baffles the minds of the alims. And if you notice that most of the riwayat and even the ones that are answering the questions, they're usually ladies, like Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha. The fatwas are going to because it's ladies asking the question from lady, because she was a muftiya, right? She was a authority in fiqh. So they used to go to a Mufti Abdul Rahman. Remember, he came in Ramadan. He if you go to zamzamacademy.com on their website, they set up. There's a link there you might be able to find. I think it's called Menses. It's basically masail related to Haydh, to the monthly period. So he's trained a whole, like a heap of women on the masail of that through certain books and so forth. So if a lady has a question, they can actually ask through the website directly to those muftis, those alimat. They trained like a whole group of women. There's that are alimat, they're muftiyat as well. They're muftis, especially in these masail. So this part of deen, there's no shame in it. Even if it cannot apply to men. No matter what in 2022 people are telling you, this bab, men don't get hayd, they don't get a period. So like they have emojis of men that are pregnant now. This is a time that we're living in, but it can't happen. It's impossible. But hayd is something that is specific to, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said this is something normal, and this is something that happens to every woman. So these are the sort of fundamental masail around it. If you notice, the commentary is quite, there's a lot of details in the commentary, which we won't get a chance to go through, but at least it should be, like sometimes we talk about masail of zakat. You might not even be a person that has to give zakat, but you should know the masail of zakat, because somebody in your family, maybe one day you'll know. Or miras, like last year, not this Ramadan, the previous Ramadan, I went through all the ahkam of Quran, like in before the Tarawih, to focus on that. 2021, before the Tarawih, you have the Dars. So the 20 days went through all the ahkam in the Quran. Some of them might not be applicable to me, like inheritance masail might not be applicable, or zakat might not be applicable, but they're on the radar. So people know that there are, and you can't learn all this masail sitting in one majlis or one thing, but at least it's on the radar. There are rules for miras, inheritance. There's a way to do inheritance Islam. There's zakat on this thing. So it's on the radar of the Muslims. Then because if you don't even know that it's such a thing exists, then how can you ask the question to learn the details? You go to an alim or an alima to ask for a specific case with to your situation, if you don't even know it's a thing in Islam. So it's just, these masail is a chapter of Haydh. So masail, so just we wrap up the Kitab al-Tahara. So the first hadith, Imam Malik narrated from Alqamah, who narrated from his mother, the freed slave woman of Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha, our mother, and that she said that the women used to send to Aisha radiallahu anha the cloth, the cotton that they used for their menses, and they used to put it in a container. The container is the container like a jewelry box or something, or something that was used to keep jewelry, or it mentions in the commentary, jewelry or something was put in there, or perfume, like container, like a bag or something. They would send to her to check it, and they used to ask her that about their salat. So then they saw in it there was some color, there was yellow, or there was in the title of the chapter is if there's yellowness, or it's dark, like light yellow blood or dark blood. And then she said, don't be hasty. He said, like in starting salat again, because there was a change in their period, and then they asking her the question, and so she said, la ta'ajalna, don't be hasty until you see that it's clear, the cloth, whatever is used for. Now there's specific things made for that, but at that time they used cotton or piece of cloth for that. The next chapter is about the women leaving. So one is about, there is ahkam for this, not to be hasty quickly, to start salat quickly before its time. This chapter is about leaving, looking into those things, that material or cotton, in the night, in the dead of the night. Abdullah bin Abi Bakr, Imam Malik narrated from Abdullah bin Abi Bakr, that he narrated from his auntie, who narrated from the daughter of Zayd bin Thabit. And Zayd bin Thabit, radiallahu anhu, is one of the Imams, like Muftis, senior Muftis of Sahaba radiallahu anhu. So his daughter, they asked her that there reached to them women who used to check. It reached her that women used to, in the night, in the dead of the night, to check. They requested lamps. They requested lamps so that they could check in that. Now think about that. Like some of these things that we have to explain. There's no electricity. There's no light switch. So they requested their men to and then to light it, you would have to light a fire. It's a tedious thing, and to get the lamp lit, just so they can check whether they're in tuhur, meaning they're not in hayd, like their hayd, their period, the menses is finished, and they were so they were like sort of you could say told off for doing that. Because the women didn't used to do that. Meaning the sahabiyat, the nisa, the sahabiyat, the women around Rasulullah, they didn't go to that extreme in this matter. Meaning, so Shah Waliullah says that this is over the, some have said, meaning some of the ulama have said, they were criticized in this because it was over the top, because they can just check in the morning. Right? If they've never done their Isha, then you just have to wait till Fajr, because the next obligation that requires Tahara is Fajr. So they should wait till the morning. So there's no, however, if they haven't prayed their Isha, then they should of course be checking the night until the morning, or try their best before, because it could happen at night, and then the Isha, because the Isha time lasts till Fajr time, that's possible. The next section is about can a woman have, a woman, she sees blood, she has it looks like the blood of period. So Imam Malik narrated that he has reached him that Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said that if a woman is pregnant and she sees blood, she should leave salat like a woman in hayd. And there's another narration that's similar. This Imam Malik has based his view on this. Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said that a woman who has menses who's pregnant cannot have a period. Meaning that when she's pregnant, she should not be. When she's pregnant, she's not in hayd. It cannot be that. It can't be. It's one or the other. And Imam Shafi rahimahullah, there are two views narrated, but the stronger is the first view. As for a mustahada, I think I missed one chapter which is related to that one. That it's just one riwayah Imam Malik narrated. This is a lady that is in hayd, that she should abstain from praying salat. So Imam Malik narrated with the chain of narration that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in regards to a mustahada, a lady. So istihada, hayd is menses, the monthly period. Istihada is irregular bleeding. It's not hayd. It's like a person having a cut and it just bleeds. They can't maintain it. Like someone has chronic passing of wind or chronic drops of urine. They can't stop it, but they need to do tahara. So how do they do it? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when the hayd ends, then they should leave. So when the hayd finishes, when the hayd comes, then they should leave salat, and when it goes, the hayd goes, then and should wash the blood and they should pray. Meaning that they know their habit, like their period is, for example, 6 days. Every month the same thing. But imagine if after 6 days bleeding continues, they should go by their habit. The extra is there's a lot of fiqh related. I'm just shortening this. It's a very difficult bab to many ulama have mentioned this. They complain. This is the most. I think it's to do with men maybe more, because it's something that we don't have to. It's not a reality for us, and there's too much grey, and I think it's also the topic is for us maybe not so interesting or appealing. Maybe I don't know how to put it, but and so it's like our brains. Part of many very good alims that complain that he goes, they can't wrap their head around it, and maybe they don't want to wrap their head around it. But there's other ulama, like if you see big commentaries on ulama and fuqaha, and they answer these questions. But like I said, if you see the riwayat, who's narrating all the riwayat, it's usually women. They're asking this question, and there's women that are giving the fatwas, the mufti, the sahabiyat, and so forth, and tabi'at. They're giving the fatwas on this. So if the hayd is finished, but there's irregular bleeding, that means that's from a sickness. It's not hayd. Therefore, they should wash, clean themselves, and then they should pray for every, like a ma'zur person, a person's got those chronic sicknesses, then they should make wudu for every salat. وَعَلَى هَذَا أَهْلِ, and upon this the people knowledge. The next chapter, that a mustahada, a lady that is in istihada, in that irregular bleeding, she should pray, she should fast, and should make wudu for every salat. This is not for hayd, she's not hayd, this is chronic bleeding or irregular bleeding. Malik narrated from Nafi', who narrated from Sulaiman ibn Yasar, who narrated from Salama, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the women, they had bleeding in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they she sought a fatwa from the Salama sought the fatwa from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning she asked the question from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam through his wife Salama radiallahu anha. Just one thing. These, like here, we're adults here, sometimes you have to be mindful. A question came yesterday from one of the maktabs, after school program like we have as well. They asked a question about certain things are being pushed by the West Australian government, like in terms of, you see, like we have the ni'mat of deen and Islam, and the khuluq, the character of Islam is haya, modesty. We're not shy in the truth, we teach the truth and haqq, but also along with that we maintain adab and haya and modesty, which is sadly lacking in these times. Sometimes coming from some ulama as well, like they're not mindful of, a younger ulama maybe not so mindful of it because it's the truth, and no, but there are ways to approach things. So they were pushing this thing about, of course they're trying to avoid, because of the excess, what the zulm and the wrongs that were done because of the churches with the abuses that were happening in the churches and so forth. And then because of that, all these after the Royal Commission, all these laws have come into being. So now they become very explicit in the way they approach, like, did somebody touch your penis or vagina, like these type of words, which is not even in Muslim society or in Muslim conversation. Even as adults, even non-Muslim, we don't use these words in conversation. But it was so explicit, and for primary school kids to use these words. And so I send a question to some ulama in the UK who have much more experience dealing with children and so forth. And two of them, they sent a reply back, and they said, this is not the way we approach as Muslims. We have our own moral standard, which is the Quran and Sunnah and Nabi Sallam. And if you see the seerah as well, there's a lot of euphemism, the right word, or metaphor, or even we say private parts. We don't say, even non-Muslims use it as well. So even you see in these questions, you'll see like there's sometimes in these sort of masail in seerah, sometimes it's direct to make it, because using the explicit word creates its own problems. And kids, when they hear the words, they get it's funny to them, as well. It doesn't actually serve the purpose. And then sort of it affects their haya, their modesty as well. So we have other things to protect as well. We have to protect them, obviously, but also we have to say that they get suggestion how we should approach in terms of the words, the language that should be used. Like you can generally point to the area in the region or the private parts or something like that without saying explicitly those words. So you see this in the seerah and in the way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained masail. Everybody knows what is being talked about. Sometimes it is direct because it has to be for a certain case, but for children especially, because that's something, haya is something is very hard to get back when you lose it. How do you, and it's the khuluq of Islam. Islam teaches, it's the character of Islam. So we got it, like it's something that is valuable and is worthy of preserving. So Rasulullah ﷺ said in answer to the question that she should look at the number of days, the nights and days that she used to have hayd in the previous month, and before she was afflicted or she with this what happened this month, she should leave the salat according to the previous month. And then if it continue, then she should wash and she should put something there. So she has a pattern like an aada in the previous months, and she should follow that pattern. And if it continues, then she should put something there so the bleeding doesn't go and doesn't dirty the clothes. and she should make wudu, she should wash, and she should pray. Imam Malik narrated from Hisham bin Urwa, who narrated from his father, who narrated from his auntie, Sayyidina Aisha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that she said that Fatima binti Abi Hubaysh said, radiyallahu anhunna, O Messenger of Allah, I can't get purified, meaning my hayd doesn't finish, like I don't reach tuhur. Should I leave salat? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to her, indeed this is a vein, it's not the hayd, meaning this is istihada, this is chronic bleeding, this is from something else, not from, of course hayd is from the lining of the womb clearing itself for pregnancy, and every month it can start from the it's not before the age of 9, and it's generally considered not to be after the age of 50. And it said these wordings we went through before, that when the hayd comes, then leave salat, when it goes, then wash the blood from yourself and pray, meaning that you're in that time you actually are not in hayd. Imam Malik has narrated from Hisham bin Urwa, who narrated from his father, who narrated from Zainab, the daughter of Abu Salama, that she saw Zainab bint Jahash, that she used to be under Abdurrahman ibn Auf, the wife of Abdurrahman ibn Auf, that when she used to have istihada, that she used to wash, meaning she used to clean and then she used to make wudu, and she used to pray. Imam Malik narrated from Hisham bin Urwa, who narrated, does anybody know who Urwa is? So Urwa bin Zubair. So Zubair ibn al-Awwam, one of the 10 Sahabas promised Jannah. So he's this younger brother of Abdullah bin Zubair. So Abdullah bin Zubair was a Sahabi, and this is the only Sahabi that is family, and Allah gave this status to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, that his father was a Sahabi, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was a Sahabi, his daughters, Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha, Asma radiallahu anha, the mother of Abdullah bin Zubair, Sahabi, and Abdullah bin Zubair. It's the only family, there's 4 generation of Sahaba radiallahu anhu. So Urwa bin Zubair was the, so he narrated from his father, right? So he narrated from his father, that means from, Hisham bin Urwa narrated from Urwa, and Urwa's father was Zubair bin al-Awwam radiallahu anhu. So he was a tabi'i, Urwa wasn't a sahabi, he was a tabi'i, his brother was a sahabi. That he narrated from Zainab bint Abi Salama, that she saw Zainab bint Jahash, who was under Abdurrahman Auf, and she used to have istihada. Imam Malik is narrated, he was called and Sumay, the freed slave of Abu Bakr, Anna Qaqa bin Hakim and Zayd bin Aslam, and they have attributed to Sa'id bin Musayyib that they asked him, they sent him actually a message, that they sent a message to him, a letter to him, asked him, Sa'id bin Musayyib, they asked him how should a woman in istihada, in that irregular bleeding, she should she wash herself, and he said she should wash from tuhur ila tuhur, so she should wash for every salat, وَتَتَوَضَّ لِكُلِّ صَلَاةٍ, and she should make wudu for every salat. And if the bleeding is too much, then she should tie some cloth there, so that, of course, blood is najis, so it doesn't spread everywhere, and then it stops the bleeding spreading. So Imam Hanifa rahimahullah said that a mustahada, a lady that is in this state of irregular bleeding, that she should go by her habit, and Imam Shafi rahimahullah said that she should go by her discernment. Right? There's a whole explanation, and Rasulullah ﷺ said, because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the dark blood, it says black damun aswad, like what it actually, like there's a distinction between irregular bleeding from a vein as opposed to the bleeding that comes from a period, which is the womb clearing itself, and this is the meaning of the hadith that Rasulullah ﷺ, when the hayd comes, then leave the salat. What does it mean, the bleeding? It's talking about a specific type of bleeding, specific color. If you go in the fiqh books, there's colors mentioned and all sorts of things, like in details. This is a very brief summary. And it's like you sort of, I think that obviously because the ladies experience it themselves, for them it's maybe easier to sort of visualize and understand all these things. For us, it's like this is my experience, and many alims that complain about this, like I said, they're not, and you see the reverse also, when it comes to buyu', transactions generally, like marketplaces, the men are more switched on in buyu', like in classes with the market, the masail of market, they're more thing. You'll be surprised. Some of the men get generally, just generalization, obviously, they're more exposed. If you're talking about alimas, generally they're in very sheltered families, very sheltered madrasas. They don't have a lot of worldly exposure to what thing. And men, even as an alim, he's also in the marketplace as well. So, wallahu alam. So it's evens out. Wallahu alam. Yeah, so there's a bit of discussion about, is it by discernment or is it by their previous habit and so forth. We'll leave that, that's enough. And inshallah next week we'll start Kitabul Salat, the chapter on Salat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding, and we can't say tawfiq to practice, but we usually say that in every dars. May Allah give us understanding of this. Subhanallah, bihamdi, subhanakallah. Maybe the sisters listening, so they can apply whatever they get out of this, inshallah. Subhanallah, bihamdi, subhanakallah, bihamdi, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursaleen. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.